evening, everyone. First and foremost, I want to thank everyone who, of course, we were supposed to go on last night. We had a family issue on our end. Everything is great now, so we want to thank everyone, including our friends at ESS.
It's no BS, it's ESS.
There he is, and of course, tonight's guest. You've seen him in the WWE under many a name. You may have seen him in ECW, Smoky Mountain Wrestling. You may see him in All Japan Pro Wrestling. Been all over the world. Bull Buchanan is here with us for a virtual signing. Bull, well, thank you so much for spending some time here in the Captain's Corner.
Thanks for having me out, guys. I've enjoyed it. It's been great.
We're having a good time, and we're going to get to a lot of pre-orders. We're going to get to questions and comments you guys have. Maybe we can go over... Well, wait a second. We'll wait for the room to build while we go over photos. Bull, can you tell us how you want to break it into this wacky business?
I started watching it when I was a kid, and I just fell in love with it. I liked everything about it because it was so non-traditional ball and stick sports or anything I'd seen at that point. I couldn't believe the guys talked as much crap about each other as they did actually on live TV. And, you know, Tommy Rich was one of my favorites, Mr. Wrestling, too. I grew up in Georgia.
Georgia Championship Wrestling.
Georgia Championship Wrestling. And I was telling Bill after today, you know, I found out through the magazines that there was a whole world of wrestling outside Georgia because at that time, you know, if you lived in a region, all you saw was your region. And started following the other forms of, you know, the other companies through the magazines and became a fan of World Class, Mid-South, all the territory, the Von Erichs, the Freebirds, you know, all the 80s stars, and it just went from there.
And you named a lot of great names in there, and you know, a lot of those guys are favorites of a lot of people tuning in right now. And everyone tuning in, we want to thank you so much. We've got some great photos. We're going to have Bull talk about them right now. So maybe just a couple of words when the photos come to, when you see the photos. Bull, this is our first one, Bull number one.
Bull number one. Me and Big Boss Man. I had been in WWE or WWF at that point for about a year and a half or so. We'd done the Truth Commission thing and been off the road for a while, and Jim Cornette called me. He had just moved from Connecticut down to Louisville, and him and Danny Davis, or Danny already had OVW going, and Jimmy told me, come down, I got an idea for you. I went down, and Bull Buchanan was born. And, you know, I stayed down there for 6 to 8 months, and went up and, yeah, put me with Big Boss Man, and I was off and running.
That is our photo number one, easily our biggest pre-order. So if you want that photo, get it in now before it's sold out. Thank you, Bull.
Yep.
We'll trade you out. We'll get a zoom in over here. Bull number two, looking very similar to what you got on right now.
Bull number two, yep, RTC. So after they finished me and Big Boss Man up, was kind of disappointed about that, but Stevie Richards approached me backstage. Me and Stevie had gotten to be friends, and he approached me and laid the whole ideal out to me. And yeah, it was gold. It was, you know, I think it was one of those things that they didn't think would get as big as it actually did.
Sure.
You know, it kind of overgrew itself. And we just continued to add members and continue to piss people off. So, yeah, RTC, man.
And you were talking about with Bossman being, you know, finished a little too quick. I feel like there was a lot left in RTC too, you know.
Yeah. But you got to think at the time what was going on. You know, there was a buyout of WCW.
Sure.
You know, ECW had folded. We you know, brought in all those guys. So we had a whole nother roster that had to get on TV and establish themselves on our TV. So, unfortunately, you know, the RTC was kind of a victim of that, I think.
Something kind of had to give, yeah. Now, number three, a more current photo of you.
Oh, yeah.
Can you talk about this one?
I can. So, after WWE 2003, I think, went to All Japan, stayed there. Me and D'Lo Brown went, stayed there for 4 years, I think. Made the switch to Noah, I think in 2006, 2007, stayed there to 2010. Quit going to Japan in 2010, and just, if you remember, in all transparency, the movie The Wrestler had just came out, and I decided in myself I was not going to be that guy. And I had a lot of friends at the sheriff's department, had a you know, a pretty fast track through the department, and yeah, started a whole nother career.
And that's a great photo right there.
Yeah.
And
Crown Victoria.
check that one out. Now we've talked about a lot of your unique gimmicks. This one, this is our B square option. Poor Taz, I didn't even mean to put the sticky over his face. But can you tell us about what comes to mind when you see you and young John Cena?
B square. So I'd actually met John Cena a few times out in California. He was working out there. I think he was bodybuilding at the time. He was also wrestling. Met him. He did a few dart matches. I mean, he obviously had the look. But when I got to OVW, when I went down to OVW the second time, found out how he was on the stick, and I said, man, you know, if they don't bungle this guy's gold. And I didn't realize it until years later, but I guess they almost did bungle it. But he pulled the cat out of the hat at the right moment with Stephanie, you know, in the back of that bus rapping, and she took it to Vince, and you know, they came to me. I think that it was originally more of a bodyguard type character, but me and John talked about it, and we decided to have some fun with it. He was having fun with his, so we decided to have some fun with ours, and B square was born.
This is our B square option, and now, last but not least, for our photo options, there are lots of other names we'll touch on the next hour plus, but we have our Recon photo option right there.
Recon
with the Truth Commission.
That was my foot in the door. So I signed with WWE, I think in 1996. Sent me down to Memphis. I went as the Punisher because that's what I had been doing in Smoky Mountain for Jim Cornette. And stayed down there a few months, worked the loop, wore out a couple of cars, and was home for a couple of weeks and got a call. They said they needed us in Stamford. They had an ideal, and came up and was introduced to Robin Smith, who was the original Commandant, Kurgan, and Mike Hallett was originally with the group. He was formerly, Tank Mantar.
Rest in peace, Mike.
Yes. Yeah, unfortunately. But they sent us up to Stamford, and Robin had actually been a soldier in the South African Army, so he taught us how to march and salute and all that stuff, and we took it down to Memphis, stayed down there for a few months, and then got called up.
And, we had Mike actually on before he passed. He sold the original tank outfit, mask, fatigues, green shirt. Yeah, but he talked favorably about, being involved in that original Truth Commission in Memphis.
He was the veteran, and as crazy as it sounds, I'd only been in the business for maybe 2.5 years at that point. So I was the second in line as far as the veteran goes, but he was definitely the veteran of the group, and he kept us together down there in Memphis.
Now, our first item that we've got coming up, our friend Waylon sent this in. Now, this is WrestleMania 17. This is, I actually believe 16. This is 2000 when you and Bossman were a team.
Okay, Anaheim, yeah.
And love to get you on here. Can you tell us maybe some memories of that match in Anaheim? Featured match at WrestleMania.
Well, me and D'Lo had known each other since Smoky Mountain, so we were friends. And I'd gotten to know Godfather from my previous stint there, and it was great. I remember doing the leg drop, the coup de grace there at the very end, and man, there was nothing like it. You felt like I was flying. I would jump so high. I pay for it now, unfortunately. I pay for it now, but it was well worth it. We hit the leg drop and got the 1, 2, 3. I remember Ice Cube, Ice-T. It was Ice-T coming out with Godfather and D'Lo, rapping them out to the ring. So a lot of good memories.
Now we've got this cool item right here. Our friend Mike sent this in. Of course, I believe you and Billy Black teamed up in ECW. Was he Dread?
Yep.
So he's got to have you on there. And Billy Black, one of the unsung stars of the 90s. Maybe you could talk about your time, with Billy, and then, the match in the arena.
I got with a group right after I got into right after I started, I got in with a group.
Supposed to be a Dread. If you could tell us.
Got with North Georgia Wrestling. And I had already started trading tapes with folks, so I knew who Billy Black and Joel Deaton were. They were a big tag team over in All Japan. And Billy was from Georgia. So was Joe. I don't know if he's from Georgia, but he lived in Georgia. But he worked with Billy a lot, and Paulie called Billy because, you know, the tape trading business was going strong at that point, and people were just craving the Japan product. So they asked for Billy and Joel. Joel was tied up at the time. I think he might have been in Puerto Rico. And so Billy knew me. He said, hey, I got a guy I can bring. So I showed up. Paulie loved us, and it's actually a good story. Paulie loved us. He was going to bring us back, and Jim Cornette actually leveraged that and got me a contract with WWE. He went to Vince at the next TV tape and said, hey, remember that big kid I was telling you about? He said, yeah. He said he went to ECW this weekend, and Vince said sign him. So, yeah. But, you know, it was I tell everybody it was a tough choice at the time because, you know, on one hand here I have a WWF at the time contract.
Sure.
But on the other hand, ECW was the up and coming, you know, everybody, all the young guys, especially me, wanted to be there. So it was a real decision I had to make because on one hand, I thought I could make a name for myself in ECW and then go where I wanted. On the other hand, was a guaranteed WWF contract. You know, I already had a family at that time, so, you know, I took the contract. But me and Paulie remained friends through the years, and a few years later, it paid off again for me.
All right. Thank you for that story, Bo.
Yeah.
Now, you said you were getting the videotapes, right?
Yeah.
That was a big thing. I remember catching in to be a part of Tape Trader, getting videotapes. People understand now they can just go on YouTube and watch stuff live, but getting footage, it wasn't easy in the 90s.
The tape trading business, I think, from what I understand, started in maybe the mid to late 80s and just continued through into the 90s, and, you know, until we, I guess until the DVDs took over. But yeah, I was a tape trader. I loved getting the old Japan, the New Japan stuff. So, yep, I was on the ground floor of that. VCR, you gotta love it, man.
So can you talk about getting that contract? You said Cornette actually helped you get that contract. What were your memories of, you know, getting the call, working on the contract, and then coming up the first day of TV?
I had been to ECW. I got home that Sunday. I think it might have been sometime the next week. Cornette called me, and you know, back then you always went by area codes to see who, you know, you knew if it was 203, it was Stamford, Connecticut. Sometimes that was good, sometimes that was bad. But I knew Cornette's. It was 615, so I picked up. He said, "Well, you ready to go to work, kid?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "I got you a contract." And I was flabbergasted. I didn't know what to say. And I said, how'd you do it? And he said, well, I saw Vince at TV, and I said, remember that big kid I had in Smoky Mountain I was telling you about? And Vince said, yeah. Cornette said, I told him that you went and you were working for Pauline now, so he said, sign me. So, yeah, got the contract. Like I said, I mean, I didn't have to put a whole lot of thought into it, but I did have to think about it. I waited out, and I just, I couldn't come up with anything other than, hey, this is WWF, the logo and everything, a legitimate contract. I signed it, got it back to them. I think maybe a month later, I get another call. I can't remember whatever the area code for Memphis is, and it's Jerry Lawler. So, another one of my childhood heroes, Jerry Lawler's calling me and telling me when to be in Memphis and when to, and First TV. And I remember I worked a independent show because, at that time, it was still pretty loose about working indie stuff. So I worked an independent show that night, drove all night to Memphis, got there, slept in the parking lot in my car, got up, did TV, and immediately got thrown onto the loop. Went from there over to the big one, did live TV on Saturday morning from 9 to 11. Left there, went to the other side of Memphis to the big one. Did a house show there, left from there at about 1 or 2 o'clock, drove 4 hours to Nashville, wrestled in Nashville that night. So, needless to say, I got a hotel room that night because I just couldn't go anymore. And Sunday was off, and then the next, I think Monday night, we were in Memphis Coliseum. One of the places I grew up, watching Jerry Lawler and Bill Dundee and Tommy Rich and Austin Idol and all those guys. It was a dream come true for me to make it that far. And then I'd been down there for about a month, and I got a call, and they said, well, you're on an actual WWF show in Nashville. You'll be working Tracy Smothers. you know, it couldn't have worked out better. Me and Tracy knew each other from Smoky Mountain. We worked over there, so it was somebody I was comfortable with, and went to Nashville. And I was telling somebody today, I saw saw one of the old posters from the old WWF posters. Had Rene Goulet on there. He was my first agent, match agent, Rene Goulet, and yeah, went out and worked Tracy, had a good match, and yeah, just kept rocking and rolling from there.
I got to ask you, was Lance Russell at TV at that point?
Absolutely.
Oh, what was it like? You know, you say you're a tape trader. Lance Russell was as big a star as Jerry Lawler was in that part of the country.
Yeah, it was great. It was everything I, always imagined. It was a TV studio. We actually dressed in the snack in the break room for the on-air personalities, but they knew not to come in while we were doing TV. So yeah, it was everything I imagined. The small studio, the crowd was right up on you, and they were live and they were hot, and went out there and hit the road and ran through about 3 cars. Yeah, we were putting thousands of miles on those cars. Yeah, it was brutal on them.
Who were you riding with a lot in those days?
Actually, the first day I got to TV, I met I think. And I don't have anything to actually verify this, but I think we were probably the first developmental class that WWF ever had. It was me, a guy named Bart Sawyer, who was Roddy Piper's protege.
Yeah, he had time in Portland.
Yep,
yeah, sure.
Yep. And Dwayne Johnson.
Wow.
Yeah, we all debuted. I think they debuted a week before I did, but we all kind of gravitated toward each other down there, and we all wound up riding together. All our cars were junk. Rocky's car, Bart's car, my car. We was barely getting down the road, so we'd swap out a little bit. But yeah, we kind of rode to Brian Christopher would jump in with us, Jamie Dundee, and, and Wolfie D. All the young guys.
Shout out to Jamie and Wolfie.
Yeah. Love you guys. Wherever you at. I talked to Wolfie not long ago. I was actually on his podcast.
Oh, awesome! Yeah.
And and Jamie Dundee was just a hoot to ride with.
Character. Yeah. I can only imagine. A few hundred miles to go by like that.
Yeah, some good times, man. But to be so young, they had so much knowledge, and especially Jamie, because he grew up. Wolfie grew up around business, but Jamie, from birth, grew up in the business. His mother was in the business, his father was in the business. So
more into it, yeah.
Yeah. Just so much knowledge at a young age.
Now, we're going to get this one. Sarah claimed one of our Smoky Mountain prints. I'm thinking maybe we could do the Punisher right there if possible. And can we talk about that, Bull? Because you had so many unique names. The Punisher, though, in that last year of Smoky Mountain, you were featured. You're Jim Cornette's bodyguard. If you could talk about, that time in Smoky.
Yeah. So there again, I was,
It's for you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah. I debuted in North Georgia Wrestling, which was a small promotion in Atlanta, Georgia. I was on channel 36 down there. A lot of the historians around the area remember at that time, Joe Pedicino had a thing called Superstars of Wrestling. It was a block on Saturday nights from 7 o'clock until 1 o'clock in the morning. They showed all the territories, WWF, WCW. They would show matches from Japan, Puerto Rico. That same block was still on, but it had dwindled down because the territories were gone. But it dwindled down to Memphis, Smoky Mountain, and North Georgia Wrestling. And Jim Cornette was trying to get into the Atlanta market, of course. And so when he came down to the Cobb County Civic Center to do shows, he would give us a match on that show. And at that point, I got to be buddies with New Jack and Mustafa. They were on the first show, They were on the first show, and that was their end in Smoky Mountain. Cornette saw them, saw money, and pulled them up. So the next show he came was my turn, and of course they were pulling for me. They were politicking for me. And Ricky and Robert, I met them at that point. Bob Armstrong used me all over the state of Alabama. So I had a lot of friends in the locker room. Cornette came out, watched me. I come back through, and he said, "I've never seen anybody do the leg drop besides Bobby like that." He said, "I don't have a spot for you right now, but give me some time." I said, "Okay." Went to Puerto Rico for a couple of months, came back, had a message on my thing, call him, He had a spot for me. I showed up in Knoxville, Tennessee at the Marriott. We cut 4 weeks worth of promos, me, Cornette, and Buddy Landell.
Wow.
That was my first, and once again, another, Jim Cornette, I've watched, since I was, I hate when people say that because it makes you feel old. But I had watched him, since the time he started in wrestling. I was watching Buddy Landell, and Cornette laid the whole thing out. It was going to be Cornette's Army, Cornette's Militia. He came out in the Army fatigues and the combat helmet. It was me, Tommy Rich, Terry Gordy, and Buddy Landell, the original group. And I mean, Tommy Rich I'd already met in Georgia, and of course that was my hero growing up. So I was ecstatic about Terry Gordy. I was a huge fan of Terry Gordy, all the Freebirds. But I was a huge fan of Terry Gordy because he was the big guy. And so I got to work with him and just learned so much. Yeah, and Cornette took care of me. Cornette took care of me. He coached me, literally coached me from the side of the ring because I was green. I was greener than that right there. He coached me he would tell me stuff from the side of the ring. Hey, do this. Or, hey, do that. So it wasn't just the on-screen manager. He was actually coaching me, and I tried to stay around him as much as I could and just listen, keep my mouth shut. And I learned so much about the business, about promoting the business, and about how an old-school territory worked. And that was the beauty of Smoky Mountain. It was an old-school territory. We worked anywhere from 4 to 5, sometimes 6 nights a week, plus the independent stuff you could get off of it from his TV. So yeah, I was in a perfect world. I would never let I would have made a ton of money and just never left Smoky Mountain, and it would still been there today.
Well, the amazing thing about you're one of the few guys that when you broke in, you were able to experience USWA.
Yeah.
You got literally the last of the territories, ECW, and then you were there during the Attitude Era. Yeah. I mean, not a lot of guys can say that they did all the.
Very proud fact that I can say that I was one of the last territory guys. I'd be remiss if I had not got to have that experience, and it explains so much of the business to me at a very young age that I was still trying to figure out. I saw how a loop worked. I saw how you went from town to town, and you carried the angle from town to town, and you worked on it, and you came back to your big town, which was Knoxville. You had your big shows there, and and it worked the same way in WWE. We would do the loop, we would do the house shows, and then we would work on the angle and work on the matches, and then bring them back to the big show, wherever that was at. Madison Square Garden, L.A., wherever the big show was at. Monday Night Raw, or wherever the pay-per-view was at.
And when you're with guys like Cornette, Gordy, Tommy Rich, Buddy Landell, that's a good learning tree to sit under. He wants to know, Mr. Buchanan, what arena did you like to perform in other than MSG? So did you have maybe a favorite arena, 2 or 3? It's hard to narrow it down.
Yeah, Phillips Arena, of course, that was my home arena at the time, or Phillips Arena, the Georgia Dome, I guess, at the time. Would love to have performed in the Omni. I went there and saw so many great matches through the years. But at the time, the Georgia Dome, I guess, Memphis, Tennessee, the Memphis Coliseum, unfortunately we didn't get to go there long. But, I love the old places. Wish I could have performed in the Sportatorium.
Oh, that would be great.
So the fans around the South might know, Continental Wrestling, what was the name of it?
Was it Birmingham?
Alabama.
Dothan, yeah.
Dothan, Alabama, the Farm Center.
Yeah.
Dothan, Alabama, got to wrestle there. Bob Armstrong saw me very early, about 4 or 5 matches into my career, and asked me if I had a hockey mask, and I knew right where he was going with it because I was a huge Lord Humongous fan. I was a fan of the movie, and then when I saw it in Memphis, I was a fan of the character. And I knew that Sid had been doing it, and Sid was the guy that I looked at. I just couldn't imagine a more, if you could draw a professional wrestler to me, it would be Sid Vicious, and he just had that look like he could just kill somebody at any time. So, I grabbed a hockey mask and bought the gear, and Bob Armstrong used me all over the state of Alabama.
As Humongous?
Yeah.
Really? I didn't know that.
Boutwell Auditorium.
Wow.
Boutwell Auditorium, Birmingham, Alabama, yeah. These are small places. A lot of them WWF didn't even go to anymore because they were so small.
Well, like you said, Southeastern Continental was there every
Yeah,
week,
that's
every
what I
few
grew
weeks.
up on.
Yeah.
You know, and I was at the perfect spot in Georgia. I was 10 miles from the Alabama state line, so I could watch Georgia Championship Wrestling, I could watch Memphis Wrestling, and I could watch Continental. And once in a while, when I got up on the roof and turned the antenna just the right way, I could catch a little bit of Mid-Atlantic out of North Carolina.
A good spot in the country for all that reception.
Yeah.
How tempted was Bull to want to wear earplugs when coming out to the ring to the Right to Censor theme?
Oh,
Did it ever cause your ears to ring after the
Yes.
theme stopped playing?
Yes. As loud as it was in the arena, it was twice as loud in the
Just,
garage.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, it was so annoying. That's why we always looked probably so pissed off when we came out. But you know, it got such a reaction from the crowd. It got a reaction from everybody that heard it because it was so annoying. But it was pure genius. I mean, you know.
Whoever came up with that, pissed off the boys. Then,
I don't know if it was Jim Jameson, I guess he was still doing the music at that time. I don't know if it was him or who it was, but yeah, it was gold because it really made people hate us.
Now, coming up, we've got this figure. I'm thinking the red paint pen will look good on here.
When we found out that we were getting the action figures, and I can never remember the numbers. I just remember the matches. But it was the WrestleMania where Austin wrestled Shawn and Mike Tyson was the referee.
Oh yeah.
We were actually in the 20-team battle royal. That was basically a way to reintroduce the Road Warriors, and so we were there.
Which is wild that you said that because that was when you find out about the figure itself.
Yeah.
What was your reaction to find out you had a figure?
What kid growing up didn't want an action figure? I mean, even if you didn't wrestle, if you played football or baseball, whatever, what kid didn't want their own action figure? So, it was great. It was a good day all the way around. Got to meet Mike Tyson. He was real nice. Got to meet Pete Rose. He was real cool. It was just a great day. Great day for our company and a great day for the business, I think. We turned the corner that day.
Yeah, that was, right. Pretty might be staying up late with us if he's still watching up in Germany,
Our, originally Mike Hallett was a tank in the Truth Commission, but he never made it to the main roster with us. I don't know what happened, but they brought in Luke Poirier. Luke Poirier was
Rambo, right?
Rambo in CWA for Otto Wants over in Germany. A great guy. He really got our foot in the door. He was he knew everybody. Everybody had been through Germany. Everybody had worked with him, and he had took care of everybody over there. So they knew him. So of course we were cool, and he brought us right in the door with him. So if you're out there, Luke, man, love to see you, bro.
Yeah, I haven't heard that name in a while, so hope Luke's doing well.
Yeah, no, he, I don't know, they let him go up there after the Truth Commission run, and I want to say that, he said he was going to do a tryout with W. But he'd already been in the business for a long time at that point.
Yeah.
So
he had a big career overseas, right?
Yes, he was huge over in Germany. He was the perennial champion over there, which, they did it, they had the caravans, they would go to a town, they would work that town for a month or weeks or whatever, and then everybody would load up in the campers and move to the next town. And so I missed out on that one. I wish I could have got in on that.
Now, Adam's question was, is it true the Commandant was replaced by Don Callis, a.k.a. Jocko, was WWF needed a manager who could take bumps, and the Commandant was more of an actor?
Yes.
Capo, that's yours.
Bret Hart went to South Africa and did a Sinbad episode and met Robin Smith there and talked, they talked this thing up. Bret brought it back to Vince. Of course, Vince loved it. It was three big guys in a military faction. Vince loved it, so he brought it. But Robin had no idea about anything about wrestling. He was an actor over in South Africa, a pretty successful one, and a voiceover guy. He did a lot of stuff over there. And we went down to Memphis, and I thought he did a great job. I mean, he fit the part because he was actually in the South African military. So Yeah, but I guess they wanted somebody that could bump more. And it's a funny story. They brought Don Callis in, and Luke and Kurgan, of course, were from Canada, so they already knew of him. I didn't, and we did a house show, and he had a match. We had the 6-man match later on in the show, but he had a singles match at the very beginning of the show, and went out and just pulled a 5-star match out, and he walked back through the curtain. I remember telling him, I said, "Damn, why aren't we managing you?" I had no idea. He was a great worker, and great on the stick. And we took it in a different direction because he didn't fit the military. We all fit the military mold. We all had short haircuts. We kind of had the look. He came in with the long hair, and through just a stroke of his own genius, he took a chance and wore the leather jacket out there one night, and Vince saw it and said, "Yep, we're going in a different direction." And we went down the whole David Koresh kind of thing. I was telling Eric the other day, when we were in Waco, there was actually talk about taking us out to the Branch Davidian Ranch.
Oh my God! You cutting a promo there?
Shooting a promo.
Oh, that's heat.
Wow. You have to ask Don because he was more in on that end of it than we were. But somebody at USA or somebody in the office shut it down. Just because it was still kind of.
Oh God, Koresh was. I mean, the '90s, mid '90s, late '90s. It was a big name. Absolutely.
So it's still fresh in people's minds. But at that time, man, I thought it would have been great.
That's the old school wrestling. You'd be like, oh yeah, because that would never fly now. But that's that line there to where are we crossing it with everything that happened Koresh and the Branch Davidians, or are we just?
But at that time, we were right there on that line, and we were just stomping the hell out of it.
Yeah.
We were trying everything we could do to get ratings.
That goes to show you, by the way, how much heat there could have been that someone was like, "Oh no, that's too far."
Too much. It may have been.
Now, if we could do that placement before, the Punisher in the red was great, right in the little blue spot. If we could do that right there one more time, Bo.
So when Cornette called me up and told me, laid the whole out, I was going to be his bodyguard and the militia and everything, said, "Your name's going to be the Punisher." And automatically, in my mind, I went to the comic book Punisher.
Yeah.
Black leather, the big boots, the leather look. And come to find out later, Jimmy told me that the Punisher was actually his wife's ideal at the time, I believe, is how the story went. The Punisher was Gene Simmons' bass guitar. That was the name of his guitar. And Cornette was a huge Kiss fan, the same as I was. And so, that's actually where the Punisher came from, Gene Simmons' guitar.
I wouldn't have guessed that either.
So everybody always asks me, what is this? It's called an asp. If you've ever seen they're very compact, and you sling them and they
extends.
Because Ray thought that I needed something like he had.
Because he had the nightstick,
but he needs something different. So we ordered two, or actually Richie and Magic ordered two of them for us. One of them was normal size, was about that long, and extended, I think, maybe to there. And he said, I thought this would fit you better. And this thing was like a lightsaber. It was this long, and when you went out, it was like this. So that's the story of the ass.
And then we brought Bossman. Love to hear maybe a story or memories you have of legendary Big Boss Man.
So we were in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and if you ever watched Big Boss Man come out, you always saw him doing his tricks with his nightstick. Sure. And I asked him one time, I said, "How'd you learn how to do that?" He said, "Just because he was an actual prison guard. He was an actual prison guard that turned into a wrestler." So he said, "I'll just be sitting around the cell block at night playing with it and just learned how to do all these tricks." Well, we were going out in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and of course, as soon as he come through the door, he would start twirling it and doing all the. So we come through the door, he starts doing this thing, and flies out of his hand. Goes like 30 feet in the air, comes down in the crowd somewhere. We have no idea. We go to the ring, we do our match, we get back. Jack Landis comes up to us and says, "Ray, your nightstick hit a guy in the forehead." And I'm like, "Oh my God." And says, "Don't worry, He's not wanting to press. He just wants an autograph. So if I remember correctly, I think Ray autographed the nightstick and actually gave it to him.
Oh,
So,
that's
yeah.
what's a 101.
Yeah, the guy had a big goose egg on his head. So if he's out there tonight, somewhere watching this, yeah, I still remember that.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
That's definitely, if you've got that, worth the goose egg, because not many people probably have a big Bossman nightstick.
Yeah.
We can do the black Sharpie, but let us know. Actually, before we talk about RTC, why don't we talk about you and Rambo being a team at some point when you guys wound up breaking up? Getting some tag wins. Can you talk about whose idea that was and then why they wound up maybe not sticking with it?
So they were breaking Kurgan and Don off to themselves, and Vince Russo was still there at the time. Vince was pretty involved in the Truth Commission, and he was pretty involved in everything at that time, and he was pretty accessible to us. So he came to me and Luke and said, "Hey, you guys think of a tag team name?" And so we put our heads together. Actually, all four of us put our heads together. Because we were all still friends. We were all still riding together.
Yeah.
And
this one's a recap.
Okay. And we came up with Armageddon, and the idea was
Great name.
that myself and Sniper Luke had realized what Don Callis was trying to do. The whole David Koresh, that whole deal, and we were trying to warn the rest of the world that this could be Armageddon. So that's where it came from. We did a few matches. We did a match with the Quebecers. I think we worked new Blackjacks. Barry Windham and Bradshaw, and it just never went anywhere. We went up to actually at that time, Dory Funk was doing the dojo in Stamford, Connecticut, the Funkin' Dojo. So we went up there and we cut some promos and did stuff, but it just never went anywhere. I don't know.
And then of course you stayed on, and that was Luke's last few matches with the company.
Yep. I stayed on and rolled right into OVW and Bull Buchanan.
Now RTC is formed after your time with Bossman. Can you talk about what you remember? I guess the origins of the gimmick. It was very original, and then when everything started getting put into place.
They broke me off from Ray, and were using me as a singles. They got a big win over Chris Jericho. Thanks, Chris. A very big, huge win over, for me at that time over Chris Jericho, who was one of the hottest guys in the company. And we were in Albany, New York, and Stevie Richards and myself, like I said, we'd become friends, and he came to me and said that's what they were going to do, and they were putting us together, and he laid it all out for me, and I thought it was a great idea. If they gave it an honest chance, which they did, and then, but what really turned the corner when we found out that they were going to put the Godfather with us, and Charles and I got to be really good friends. We got to be riding partners. Me, him, and Teddy Long were riding partners, for a year and a half. So we got to be really good friends. But at that point, we were friends, but we didn't know each other that well. But I knew him well enough to know that he wasn't going to be happy about it. And, people have to understand that the Godfather was at least in the top 5 of merchandise sales at that time. Well, you're talking about Rocky, Austin, Chris, some of those. He was in that group, so he lost a lot of money. Yeah. Going to the RTC. So I knew it was going to be. But you know what? He did it. He did it with. I don't know if he did it with a smile, but you never knew that he didn't want to be there. When the red light came on, he was all business, and like I said, we got to be riding partners and friends, and still to this day, Papa, if you're out there. Go Raiders.
We were just with them last week in Montreal.
Yeah.
So shout out to Papa Bear. When did you realize that RTC was really getting some big time heat?
When we got the Godfather.
Okay.
When we got the Godfather, when I beat the Godfather, and he lost the girls, that was some of the most heat I felt from the crowd. at that point in my career. And then the next week when we introduced him and he walked out with those glasses, you know, and you know, the white tie and everything, and people just lost their minds. If people remember, you know, fast forward a few months, we teased the Dudleys being with RTC.
Yeah.
And when they walked out with those shirts on, they really lost their minds then, because, you know, at that point it had become like, okay, who's next? Who's going to be the next one? You know, because we had Godfather, we got Val, who was another big merch seller at the time, you know, Val Venus. So, you know, we were really rolling at that point. And yeah, they saw the Dudleys with it. I wish we could have teased it just a little bit longer, you know, but of course they, you know, nobody wanted to go. You know, they were on top of the tag division at that time. They were rolled. They had the whole "What's Up" thing with the, you know, the Budweiser guys. So, you know, they were breaking into not even just wrestling mainstream, but mainstream America.
Absolutely.
And yeah, nobody wants to give up that kind of money. But yeah, we teased them with that, and man, they were livid. They thought the Dudley boys had fell at that point. It's like, who's next?
Now, we got a claim on the other card we have. Let's do Bull Buchanan if we could. Thank you, Bull.
I was telling somebody earlier today, this is me and Jeff Hardy in this match. I think it was on Sunday Night Heat. It was actually just thrown together at the last minute.
Really?
Yes, they needed they needed kind of a standby match, or, you know, that kind of thing. And me and Jeff just happened to be available. So yeah, this was right before Raw came on. I think we were both on Raw that night, but yeah, we went out and threw together a quick little match, and I think it wound up being pretty good.
Now, we got this great mail-in over here in black Sharpie. The request is your signature. I'll get something underneath here with the R-O-N-D.
Yes. Roughly
Obsess and Destroy.
Yes.
Can we talk about that? Because all Japan at this point, you know, they had their natives, but they had a big rejuvenation when they brought in guys like yourself, D'Lo, Jamal, who kind of, you know, gave another kick. Let me actually take this down. Can you talk about how you got over there, and then some memories of being, at the time, the #1 foreign heel stable?
Oh yeah. So, you know, all good things come to an end. My time with WWE came to an end, and I had wanted to go to Japan my whole career. You know, like I said, I was a tape trader from the very beginning. So I wanted to go to Japan, and Mike Austin called me. We worked together some, and he just recently got released. Mike called me, says, hey, they want to bring you over, but it's going to be a few months. You interested? And I said, absolutely. So D'Lo called me, and he said, I'm going over too. So we kind of got a plan together, and we got over there, and Taka Michinoku, who had, Ricky Morton told me something one time. It's nothing been ever more true. Be careful of the toes you step on the way up, because it might be the asses you have to kiss on the way down.
Great advice, by the way.
Yeah, it served me well. Taka Michinoku, you know, we all treated him really well. You know, we understood he was in a foreign country, you know, probably a little bit uncomfortable. So we went out of our way to be nice to him, and it paid off in folds.
Wow.
Taka was the originator of the group. It was Muda's idea. Muda had recently took over the company from Mrs. Baba. If people know the history, Mr. Baba was All Japan. You know, he was the president, CEO, biggest star. Passed away, I believe it was in 98 or 99, maybe 98. Passed away, left the company to his wife. There was a lot of Kawada. There was a lot of unrest, and Misawa took basically everything.
Everyone but Kawada and Fuji.
Yeah, Kawada and a referee or two.
Yeah,
and
Fuji.
Everybody left. Fuji stayed, and Taiokeya stayed.
Yeah,
because he was loyal to Mr. and Mrs. Baba. So Muda, you know, had been over the States for years, liked American style wrestling, and told Taka, said, who can we get from up there? And Taka said, D'Lo, Mike, you know, and Mike had already been over there. Mike made his name in Japan. Jerry Toot, who was the Wall in WCW, he was over there. D'Lo and myself were the original group.
Forgot about the wall, yeah.
Yeah, first tour out, Mike gave a kid a German, and the guy landed on his orbital, crushed his orbital socket. Mike's out. Put me and Jerry together as tag team, and unfortunately, God rest his soul, Jerry too passed away on the last tour of the year, the December tour. He passed away that last night. Ty Okeo had been out with a knee injury, but they brought Umaga Eki. They brought him. Brought Justin Incredible. He only did one tour, but Eki stayed. So it was me, D'Lo, Eki, and they brought Ty Okeo because he was a huge babyface. Turned on Muda, set the company on fire, and we ran with Muda and all the top guys for 7 or 8 months, and wound up kind of turning ourselves, not turning ourselves, but the people turned us babyface. Yeah. And they actually had to form a heel faction to battle against us with a guy named Taru. It was called Voodoo Murder. It was Albert, A-Train, Matt Bloom, Johnny Stamboli, Chuck Palumbo, and a couple of the Japanese boys that Taru went. So, yeah, and then we battled with them for another year, 2 or 3. And so, yeah.
That was a hot angle when you guys, when you guys became, babyface, because and they became the big heels,
Yeah. So, yeah, I love them. Once again, in a perfect world, if I'd ever left Smoky Mountain, I went right to Japan. If I'd went to Japan before I went to WWE, I don't know that I would have ever went to WWE. It was just it was a different environment. I got to be myself a lot more. I wasn't having to play a character. I wore trunks. I could go out there and actually wrestle. And so yeah, love Japan.
And that would have been, imagine '96 over there with Misawa, Kobashi, all those guys, Stan Hansen, Johnny. Yeah, right up your alley.
Yeah.
Now, can you talk about the trips over in Japan? It's on bus, right?
Yeah.
You go from town to town.
Go from town to town.
Thank you.
Yeah, there was a Gaijin bus, which is Gaijin doesn't mean America; it just means foreigners. Because at the time, the first tour I did over there, it was La Parca was there. There was a heavy lucha influence there. There was a European, and there was it was a melting pot of all the different kinds of wrestling. So, but yeah, there was a Gaijin bus, which all the foreigners rode on, which was us, and then it was the Japanese bus, which all the Japanese guys rode, Muda and, all those guys. But we had a guy that rode with us. His name was Tiger. Tiger's out there, Tiger Ichiban, brother. Tiger was a personality all unto himself. He wasn't a wrestler, but he missed his mark by not being one because he had the personality and the charisma and the character of being a wrestler. We were on the bus one day in some small town, and we slightly rear-ended somebody. When I mean slightly, I mean, some guys were asleep on the bus, didn't even wake up.
Wow, that's very sweet.
We just barely scraped into the back of this car, and he was sitting in the second seat back. He jumped up, took a rolling bump up through the aisle, ran up against the windshield, fell down the steps. Yeah, he was that kind of guy. he kept you laughing the whole time. So, yeah, Tiger.
Shout out to Tiger if you're watching.
Yeah, shout out to Tiger.
Do you prefer the travel over in Japan to where you have to meet the bus at a certain time compared to putting the miles in your own car, getting a rental car?
Well, we had to get rental cars in over here with WWF. You would fly into so the deal was WWF would fly you in, let's say Atlanta. We'd fly into Atlanta, we'd rent a car, and we'd do a house show maybe in Chattanooga. Do another house show maybe in Knoxville, drive back down, do Monday Night Raw in Atlanta, drive over to Birmingham and do SmackDown on Tuesday night in Birmingham, which is taped. Well, that's a pretty easy loop,
Sure.
Not all that easy. But yeah, over in Japan, if you could just get on the plane, get off the plane, get all your gear together. There was somebody waiting on you. They put your gear in, you got on the bus, did whatever you wanted to, and they took you to the hotel. Checked you in, pointed you to your room. I mean, it was no-brainer.
It's hard to mess that up.
It's hard to mess up,
right?
yes. As opposed to over here, where you're going to miss a flight, you're going to, can't find your rental car, can't find a hotel room. Me and Ray Traylor rode around until 3 o'clock one morning trying to find a hotel room in San Diego.
In San Diego too.
Yeah.
That's a big city. Not being able to find a hotel.
There was something going on in town. We finally wound up like paying something ridiculous, like $400. I mean, I think we split between us. But yeah, just sleep for 2 hours and then get up and go to the airport. So
That's
it was so laid back over in Japan.
Now, Flash, your book's coming up. Who was there? One person that always tested the bus, though, getting there maybe later, the last to get on the bus. Everyone was.
That was a big deal.
Okay,
you were not late for the bus. I mean, of course, things happen, but it was very frowned on to be late for the bus, and especially if you were one of the bigger guys, sure. But, if you were just getting over there or just trying to get started or something like that, yeah, you didn't want to do that. That was a big deal. If we had to wait on you, it was a big deal.
Sure. Any memories of, Taker was as hot as anyone was during that time, especially? Let's show Flash.
Yeah, WWE was the Mafia. He was the Don. You always wanted to work with Taker because you knew if you worked with Taker, you were making money. Me and Ray, we worked with Taker and Kane, and we might be third match on the card, but man, you get the check the week after and look at it, it's like, wow, yeah. Taker was the man.
You brought up Taker, like you said, the Don, the Mafia, but he was also the judge in Wrestler's Court, right? Do you have a Wrestler's Court story that you're able to share with us?
I do. I was there for the it was Edge and Christian, but it was Brian Gerwitz. It's been well documented. I think Bob Holly saw him exchanging Christmas, something like that. Anyway. Taker was the judge, and Taker's sitting behind a table kind of like I am now, and if you can imagine, Mark Callis just kind of leaned back in his chair with his arms folded. Edge and Christian, Wrestler's Court a lot of times is more just for the boys' entertainment. You're out on the road so much, you got to do something for entertainment. In times gone by, that was tearing up hotel rooms or going out and wrecking a bar or something. So, as opposed to that, we did it kind of for entertainment. But Edge and Christian walked in, set three or four just ordered hot pizzas and a bottle of Jack Daniels, and I think maybe a 12-pack on his desk, which quickly disappeared under his desk. So it was that kind of thing. But yeah, it was great. He was a locker room leader even way back then, and there was nothing like standing in the ring and hearing that, whatever, with a gong, or a bell ring.
The lights going off.
But to me, and it's just my personal opinion. I know people will say, "Oh no," to me, the American Badass was the greatest. Yeah, that was him. That was, the Undertaker was him too, but that was Mark. That was Taker. When he came rolling out on that bike and the Kid Rock was playing, there was electricity in the arena everywhere we went, everywhere.
Absolutely. I'm a big fan of both characters, too. And, shout out to Undertaker being able to do both characters so memorably, both of them.
And keep evolving it. I got to steal his bike that day. We did the skit where I stole his bike. And I remember getting to the building that day, and Vince walked up to me and says, "You ride, don't you?" And I said, "Yes, sir, I do." He said, "Good." Left it at that. Had no idea. Went, and one of the guys, and at the time, there was a brand, Titan. It was Harley Davidson. It was based off Harley Davidson's, but Titan was kind of like Orange County Chop. They did the custom bikes, and they usually brought some for Taker to ride, and he would have his pick. They'd bring 2 or 3, and he'd pick out the one he wanted. So, so they told me about it, and they said, "So you comfortable?" I said, "Absolutely, I'm comfortable with this." So the guy that brought it came up to me and said, "Hey, listen, that thing will burn the back end off of you if you want to, and I don't mind, if you want to really grab some rubber going up the ramp there." I said, "Okay, bud." And so the first time it bogged a little bit, but we did it. We did the tape, and we came back. They said, "Let's shoot it." We shot 5 of them. It would have been okay with me if we shot 150, because every time I went to the top of the ramp, they had the whole block squared off. So I'd take it around the block all the way down, come back up, jet back down the ramp, and come down. The next to the last one, I got it, and you know, I got timed it just right and just burnt the back end off. I mean, it was squealing, I was fishtailing going up, you know, and they wanted to do one more take, and I couldn't get to do it again. And they used that last take. But yeah, I could have stayed there all day and did that. But yeah, you know, Mark was great.
That's a cool story. Now, our last couple of questions that we always wind down with Bull. By the way, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So, maybe with you specifically, you know, you had a great career in Japan. We didn't get a chance to talk about the Noah stuff. But if you can maybe give us a match in Japan that you really enjoyed, people can check out on YouTube, and then also from your WWE time, WWF time.
WWF would be me and Godfather. I don't remember where we were at, but it was the match for the girls. It was the, you know, if he got beat, he lost the hose, and like I said, there was just there was just a lot of heat in the building because people didn't know which way it was going to go. You know, I mean, nobody wanted to see the girls leave.
Yeah.
Nobody in the crowd, nobody in the back, nobody wanted to see the girls leave. But we got to a point with USA Network where, you know, Vince was having to go in every week and just beg and plead with them not to take us off TV. So, yeah, definitely that one for WWE. Pro Wrestling Noah, me and D'Lo Brown against Marufuji and Segura. Me and D'Lo Brown won tournament, and we're actually the GHC Tag Team Champions. They beat us for the belts at the Budokan, but we got standing ovation. We lost and still got standing ovation at the end. As if I had to point to two matches and say, hey, this is what I did with my career, that would be the two.
I gotta check that one out because
Yeah.
all four of you guys in the match, Marufuji and Shigeru, are so talented. You and D'Lo were such a good team together. And then maybe a funny road story you can leave us with, Paul.
Oh God, I don't want to get anybody in trouble with their wives or anybody locked up. Me and Ray Traylor, we were going back to the hotel with me and Teddy Long and Ray Traylor, and I think we were driving an SUV, and we were going down, and I was still at the point where I didn't, you know, like I said, I was still keeping my mouth shut and my ears open. And I thought we were missing our you know, it was a 4-lane, the hotel was here, this is like LA somewhere, you know.
Oh, Lord.
So 4-lane, the hotel's here, we're in this lane. And I thought it was our hotel, but I wasn't sure enough to say anything. And just as we get right in front of it, Teddy Long says, Ray, there's our hotel. Snatches the car to the left, over the median, over the next median, just tore the front bumper off of it. You know, things are flying all over the car. Get there, get stopped. And I don't know if it was me or Teddy said, Ray, what the hell are you doing? And he said, it's a rental. And you know Ray Traylor, you know what that, you know, that little laugh, you know, before he said anything, it was a rental. He didn't care. So yeah, it was one of many. That's the first one off the top of my head. I
appreciate that, Bull. We always appreciate Bossman stories on here, and we appreciate you spending some time with us here in the Captain's Corner Happy Hour. We had a great time. Bull, once again, thank you so much for your time. Great hearing the stories. Yeah. As a reminder, we have a big weekend coming up. Not even less than a week. This Thursday, we've got the Dirty White Boy Tony Anthony.
Oh, yeah.
We've got Kerry Morton. Then on Friday, Dangerous Doug Gilbert, Goldilocks from NWA, and Alex Taylor from NWA. We may have another massive signing, a Memphis superstar that we're working on. And if you could read between the lines, he's a superstar, but we don't have confirmation yet. Fingers crossed on that. Guys, thanks so much for keeping the Captain's Corner boat filled. Once again, Bull, thank you for the time. ESS, thank you for all your help this weekend.
No BS with ES.
No BS with ES. No BS with ES.
There it is, and we're going to end the way we always do. Cheers to the working man.
Thanks, guys.